There is a type of person who dreams too much and does too little, and the samurai had a specific rule to put an end to people like that. Do you know someone who is always announcing massive plans? They're going to start their own business. They're going to write a book. They're finally going to turn their life around. And 6 months later, not a single thing has moved an inch. Maybe you know this person because this person is you. There is a crucial detail about ambition. The bigger the dream, the easier it is to become paralyzed just looking at it. And there's an even worse trap hidden in all of this. Scientists discovered that the brain releases a small hit of reward just from talking about your plans, even without executing anything. You feel like you've made progress, but you haven't made any progress at all. The samurai faced this exact same problem centuries ago, training warriors who needed real results, not pretty intentions. A dojo had no room for empty promises. A duel never asked how hard a warrior had tried in theory. And the answer they found to deal with this comes down to a brutal mathematical rule, one that modern science now confirms, yet most ambitious people have never heard of. This is the 1% rule. This rule teaches that if you want to change your life, reach your goals, and transform your habits, you don't need a 180-degree shift that upends your entire routine overnight. You need to start small, but in an intelligent, objective, and consistent way. The philosophy behind this shaped the history of post-World War II Japan, enabled them to rebuild the country, and helped turn Japan into the economic powerhouse we know today. Stay with me until the end of this video, because you'll gain a deeper understanding of this philosophy and learn how to apply it to your own life to achieve all your goals, even if you're ambitious yet lazy. Chapter 1. The Man of Big Plans. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of Marcus Doyle. He was 29 years old and had a trait that everyone around him recognized immediately. He dreamed big. He worked at an advertising agency, was creative, articulate, and at every family gathering or dinner with friends, he had a brand new idea to share. Last year, it was the app he was going to launch. This year, it's the agency he swears he's going to start. He talks about it with such conviction that people genuinely believe him. His friends get excited. His mother has already told 3 of her neighbors. The problem is what happens after the conversation ends. Marcus opens a blank document, writes a 2-page business plan, and stops. He buys an online course in his chosen field, watches 2 modules, and abandons it. Always the same pattern: an explosive start, sky-high motivation, and then nothing. Marcus's reality doesn't fit the classic stereotype of a slacker. He works late at the agency, meets every deadline, and is respected by his peers. But when it comes to his own dream, something locks up. One Saturday in October, Marcus went to have lunch with Diego, a college friend he hadn't seen in 2 years. Diego was never the sharpest guy in class. He never gave grand speeches about the future, but right there, over lunch, Diego mentioned that he had just opened a small graphic design shop. Really small. 3 retainers, an improvised office in his garage. Marcus smiled, congratulated his friend, and inside felt a punch straight to the gut. Diego had never talked about revolutionizing the market. Diego simply put in the work, one project at a time every single day, while Marcus wrote increasingly ambitious plans that never left his computer screen. That night, Marcus did the math. 5 years talking about the exact same idea. 5 years of zero actual execution. He opened the folder on his computer where he stored his business plans. 7 different versions, saved months apart, each one more elaborate than the last. Each one abandoned at the exact same stage. The last update was almost a year old. He also remembered the time he went as far as buying a website domain, paid for the registration, and never published a single page. The management course he watched halfway through and never finished. The financial spreadsheet projecting profits for a business that never existed outside that digital file. And right there, alone in his apartment, he realized something that hurt more than any criticism he had ever received. His dreams weren't taking him anywhere. They were serving as an excuse to keep him standing still. If any part of this story hit a nerve, pick up your phone right now and write down, without sugarcoating it, how many plans have you announced in the last 12 months? And how many of those plans did you actually finish? You don't need to show this to anyone. You just need to be honest with yourself. This is the first crack that needs to open before any real change can happen. Chapter 2. The dojo at the end of the street. 2 weeks later, still unsettled by that lunch, Marcus was walking home from work when he noticed a discreet sign almost hidden between a laundromat and a convenience store. A kenjutsu dojo, the ancient art of the samurai sword. He had no particular interest in martial arts, but something made him stop. Maybe it was the urge to do anything different from his usual routine of endlessly planning and never acting. He walked inside. The man who greeted him was around 70 years old, lean and upright, with eyes that looked like they had seen everything. His name was Itetsu Kuroda, and he had been running that dojo for over 30 years. Marcus, excited, started rambling about how he had always wanted to learn a martial art, how this could be the missing catalyst to finally get his life together, about his plans to train every day, earn a black belt, maybe even compete. Kuroda cut him off. "Grab that wooden sword over there, let's do a cut." Marcus picked up the bokuto, the wooden practice sword, and made the gesture he imagined a samurai cut looked like, full of brute force and drama. "Wrong," Kuroda said calmly, simply stating a fact. Again. Marcus tried again. Wrong again. The elbow was too high, the hips weren't following the strike. His gaze dropped to the floor at the moment of impact, when it should have stayed fixed straight ahead. Again, Kuroda repeated with each attempt, offering no long-winded explanations, giving no praise for minor corrections, completely unimpressed by mere effort. After dozens of tries, Marcus's arms were burning, his shirt soaked in sweat. Frustrated, he asked when he was going to learn something different, some real technique. Kuroda rested his own sword on the floor. "This is the technique. This is all there is. One cut, repeated until your body understands what your mouth already knew how to explain." That was the first time Marcus heard the word kata, the fixed form, the precise movement, repeated without variation, with no room for creativity, completely detached from inspiration. A student doesn't choose to practice the kata when feeling motivated. They practice because it's time for kata. Period. Kuroda explained that Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's most legendary swordsman, dedicated his entire life to this exact logic. At the end of his treatise on strategy, the Book of Five Rings, Musashi left a timeline that terrifies anyone used to looking for shortcuts. 1,000 days of practice to forge the foundation, 10,000 days of practice to achieve true mastery. It wasn't 1,000 days of inspiration. It was 1,000 days of the exact same movement, repeated until it became second nature. "Your problem is simple," Kuroda said, looking at Marcus as if reading every abandoned plan inside his head. "You want the perfect cut before accepting the need to make the imperfect cut 10,000 times. A behavioral neuroscientist who has studied habit formation for over a decade explains this phenomenon. Repeating the exact same action in the exact same way shifts control of that movement from the prefrontal cortex, responsible for conscious decisions and willpower, to the basal ganglia, the brain region that executes automatic patterns. In practice, this means the more identical the repetition, the less mental energy the brain expends deciding whether or not to act. Think right now about your biggest stalled dream, your business idea, the book you dream of writing, the weight on the scale you've been wanting to hit. Is there a bare minimum version of it, a single gesture that you could repeat every day without having to reinvent anything? Writing one page, making one phone call, practicing one movement. Choose that gesture today. Don't choose the whole dream. Choose a single step, a single action that brings you closer to your goal, and do it repeatedly every single day. Chapter 3. Keiko, the ritual that asks no permission. Marcus returned to the dojo the following week, and the week after that. Kuroda set a simple rule: Tuesday and Thursday, 7 in the morning before work. No exceptions, no rescheduling, regardless of how Marcus felt that day. This had a name, Keiko, the regular practice that returns to the exact same place at the exact same rhythm, like warming something ancient until it comes back to life. It's the training that simply happens every week, because it's scheduled, because that's what is done with or without inspiration on that day. Marcus thought about quitting during the first few days. The alarm would go off at 6, and excuses flooded his mind in seconds. He was tired, he went to sleep late, his body ached from the previous session. He recognized the pattern. It was the exact same inner voice that always convinced him to postpone his own business. Except this time there was a difference. The schedule was non-negotiable. Kuroda never asked if Marcus felt like coming. The dojo doors opened at 7, with or without him. Musashi trained this way. Accounts of his life describe a man who practiced with an almost unsettling consistency, every day under any condition, never waiting for the perfect moment to pick up the sword. His discipline didn't stem from bursts of motivation. It came from a routine that required zero motivation to take place. It was in the 4th week that Marcus had an insight that reshaped how he viewed all his past failures. He had always tried to build his projects around how he was feeling on any given day. If he felt inspired, he worked. If he didn't, he waited for inspiration to return. And inspiration, he realized right then, almost never returns on its own. Here lies the rule that gives this video its title. A mathematician once ran a simple calculation that anyone can replicate. If you get 1% better every day for an entire year, you aren't just slightly better by year's end. You are over 37 times better than when you started. But if you get 1% worse every day over that same year, practically nothing of who you were remains. Marcus did the math on his phone's calculator, stunned. 1.01 to the power of 365. The result was over 37. And the inverse was equally brutal. 0.99 to the power of 365 dropped to a number so close to 0 that it practically vanished. Mathematics makes no distinction between motivation and discouragement. It merely compounds what is repeated. What separates these two trajectories is repetition. It is Keiko. Kuroda summed it up in a way Marcus would never forget. Your problem was never dreaming too small. It was relying too much on your mood to decide whether you show up. Yet there was one part of the samurai rule Marcus hadn't faced yet, because repeating an easy action on a good day is one thing. Repeating that action when everything inside you screams to stop is an entirely different battle. And that was precisely what Kuroda decided to test next. Now I'm giving you the exact same assignment Kuroda gave Marcus. Pick 2 fixed times during the week, just like Marcus did, to practice your minimum viable action. Don't say, I'll do it whenever I have time, because your brain will always find an excuse to procrastinate on your dreams. Pick a specific day and hour, block it out on your calendar, and treat it as a locked commitment, not a loose possibility. A fixed schedule eliminates the single question that drains most of your energy. Should I do it or not? That is your next mission. Chapter 4. Shugyo, the training nobody wants to do. One winter Saturday, Kuroda told Marcus to arrive at the dojo at 5 in the morning, while it was still pitch dark, the biting cold stinging the skin. No warm-up, straight to the outdoor courtyard, barefoot on the freezing stone. Today you will understand Shugyo, Kuroda said. Shugyo is the discipline of choosing discomfort on purpose. It means training under the exact conditions where your body and mind want to quit the most, because that is where, and only where, true discipline reveals itself. Anyone can train when comfortable. Very few train when the cold cuts deep and the body begs to crawl back into bed. Marcus repeated the same familiar cut hundreds of times, his feet numb against the stone, his arms growing heavier with every set. The steam of his own breath was the only thing moving in the still dawn air. An hour in, his hands were trembling from the combined cold and exhaustion. He wanted to quit. He said it out loud. Kuroda didn't even look at him. Your desire to stop is just discomfort pretending to be wisdom. There is a legend about Musashi that reinforces this concept. They say he lived an extremely austere life, shunning the comforts most warriors of his era sought, treating every physical hardship as part of his training. Not an interruption to it. Whether the legend is accurate in every detail matters far less than the core principle. Strength isn't born from dodging discomfort. It is born from walking straight through it repeatedly until it loses its power to intimidate you. Marcus understood, standing there in the cold, why his projects always died at the first real obstacle. He had built his entire life avoiding friction. The second a plan required discomfort, he retreated and called it rethinking the strategy. He recalled a specific moment. The website for the app he never launched crashed during beta testing, a simple technical error that could have been fixed with a few hours of troubleshooting. Instead of fixing it, he shut his laptop, told himself he needed to reassess the direction, and never opened that project again. The actual obstacle had been tiny. The excuse he built around it was what became insurmountable. Research in behavioral psychology shows a consistent pattern. Every time you avoid an uncomfortable feeling tied to a goal, your brain reinforces that avoidance as a valid coping strategy, making the next escape even easier. The reverse operates identically. Every time you push through discomfort instead of fleeing from it, that approach behavior grows stronger and more automatic the next time around. Identify right now with complete honesty which part of your goal you avoid the most. The difficult call, the grueling workout, the intimidating blank page. Today, spend 5 minutes on that exact part. At the moment it feels most uncomfortable, not when it feels convenient. 5 minutes is all it takes to start breaking the cycle of avoidance. Chapter 5. Ganbaru. When everything conspires against you. In the 3rd month of training, Marcus's life unraveled on multiple fronts at once. The agency entered a crisis leading to layoffs and 12-hour shifts. His father required surgery and spent days hospitalized. And in the middle of it all, Marcus caught a severe flu that kept him bedridden for 4 days. His old pattern was obvious. Pause everything. Promise to pick things back up once the dust settled and never return. Marcus had lived through that loop countless times with his own projects. Except this time something was different. He remembered a word Kuroda had taught him weeks earlier, Ganbaru, the persistence to carry on even when circumstances offer zero cooperation. It's about refusing to create a gap in your practice, even if today's action is tiny, clumsy, almost symbolic, far from any standard of perfection. At the hospital, waiting for news about his father, surrounded by plastic chairs and the distant hum of medical machines, Marcus executed the kenjutsu cut in the empty hallway, 3 times in silence, using only his bare hands without a sword. A nurse walked by and gave him a strange look. It looked ridiculous. Nobody was watching, yet he did it anyway. It didn't matter. Sick in bed, he performed the movement sitting up slowly, with zero strength in his arms, an almost useless gesture from a physical standpoint, but entirely whole from the standpoint of practice. When Kuroda heard about it, he said a phrase Marcus wrote down on his phone so he'd never forget. A river during a drought turns into a trickle, but it is still a river. The moment it stops flowing, it becomes nothing more than a memory of where water used to be. It was during those grueling weeks, not on the easy days of calm training at the dojo, that Marcus felt the clearest divide between who he had been his entire life and who he was becoming. The old Marcus used any setback as a perfect excuse to quit. The new Marcus drafted that very month a list of common obstacles and the minimum response for each. If I'm sick, I do the movement sitting down. If I'm pressed for time, I do it in 30 seconds. If I'm away from home, I do it in the bathroom, in the car, wherever I am. The decision was already made before chaos arrived. That stripped away the burden of having to decide in the middle of the storm. Maybe you find yourself in Marcus's shoes today. Maybe your life is so turbulent right now that you don't even have the mental energy to think about what to do next. Even so, do not break the chain. Even if your action is purely symbolic, maintain consistency. It takes far less energy to sustain a habit than it does to rebuild a broken one. So write down right now the 3 obstacles that most frequently derail your goals: exhaustion, travel, unexpected work fires, family emergencies, whatever is real for you. For each one, define a bare minimum version of your action that fits right inside that chaos. The goal is to never let the thread snap completely, even without achieving perfection when everything goes wrong. For example, if you are building the habit of running every day, on the day chaos strikes and you can't run the full miles you planned, run half or run a quarter, but keep the thread alive. Don't let it break. Chapter 6. The rule the samurai understood before anyone else. 6 months after that first clumsy cut at the dojo, Kuroda asked Marcus to sit down before training began. "Do you remember when you first came here talking about your grand plans?" he asked. Marcus remembered. He felt embarrassed just thinking about it. The problem was never the size of your dream, Kuroda continued. It was that you tried to reach it all at once, with a massive burst of effort each time, instead of reaching it 1% at a time, every single day. Right there, Kuroda connected the 4 pillars he had taught over those months. And for the first time, Marcus saw the full picture. Kata gave him a fixed form, small enough to repeat without relying on inspiration. Keiko turned that form into a ritual, eliminating the daily debate over when or if he would act. Shugyo taught him that discomfort wasn't a signal to quit, but simply part of the price. And Ganbaru ensured that even when life collapsed around him, the thread never snapped completely. None of these 4 elements on their own seem extraordinary. One cut a day won't transform anyone's life overnight, but that is the exact trap Marcus had fallen into his entire life. He had always looked for an action big enough to impress, rather than an action small enough to repeat 10,000 times without breaking. Kuroda then spoke about other students who had passed through that same dojo over the years. Those who arrived overly enthusiastic, promising to train every single day, usually vanished before the 2nd month. Those who arrived quietly, accepting the need to perform an imperfect cut 200 times without complaining, were the ones still there 5 years later, wielding a mastery of the blade the first group would never come close to touching. Their ambition wasn't smaller, Kuroda said. It just never needed to show up as a speech. It showed up as presence. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, year after year. Musashi wrote near the end of his life that true strategy is never learned through a stroke of luck or a sudden epiphany. It is learned through the accumulation of thousands of micro-repetitions performed over years, until the body no longer needs to think to execute what once required intense concentration. This is the samurai 1% rule. You don't need a massive leap to transform your life. You need a small fraction of improvement, repeated with the kind of consistency most ambitious people never have the patience to sustain. Look back at the last 6 months of your life. If you had made just 1% progress every single day toward your biggest goal, instead of waiting for the perfect day to take a massive leap, where would you be right now? Answering this question honestly usually hurts. Let it hurt. It's that discomfort that will finally move you. Sometimes we realize that if we had just done 1% every day, we would either have reached our goal by now or been remarkably close to it. But we lose our way, waiting for the perfect moment, relying on motivation to start taking action. This is the kind of mistake that once you understand how the mechanism works, you cannot afford to make again. Chapter 7. The Man Who Stopped Announcing Plans. 1 year after that lunch with Diego, Marcus finally launched his own brand strategy and design practice. Small, starting with just 2 retained clients, operating out of an improvised home office, almost identical to the starting point of the friend who once delivered that gut punch. The difference was that this time, nobody had to listen to Marcus talk about his idea for 5 years before seeing results. He simply showed up one day with a live website, signed contracts, and rented workspace. The news spread organically among his network, the way tangible results always travel faster than promises. Diego was one of his first clients, not out of pity, but because Marcus's work, built quietly across months of silent repetition, finally held enough undeniable quality to earn business from someone who understood the value of finishing what you start. Marcus kept going to the dojo. He kept repeating the exact same cut. Tuesday and Thursday, 7 in the morning, rain or shine, whether inspired or completely unmotivated. The difference was that he no longer had to decide each morning. The decision had been made long ago. All that was left was execution. On one of those mornings, a new student walked into the dojo brimming with grandiose plans, telling Kuroda everything he intended to achieve, everything that was going to change in his life, starting from that session. Kuroda handed a wooden sword to the young man and spoke the exact same words he had said to Marcus a year before. Make a cut, just one. If you want to turn a big dream into reality, start with the coming days, not the entire coming year. On day 1, choose your minimum viable gesture, your personal cut, small enough to fit into even the roughest morning. On day 2, lock in the exact time it will happen, removing your mood from the equation. During the first week, deliberately seek out the most uncomfortable moment of the day to practice this action, instead of waiting for the easiest. And starting right now, define your minimum response for when real obstacles hit, because they will hit, and the decision must be ready before the crisis arrives. Discipline builds what ambition alone never can. In the end, it is simply the sum of tiny gestures performed every single day until the body stops asking if today is a good day to act. Marcus spent years believing he needed a flawless plan, immense motivation, and the perfect timing to finally start. What he actually needed was a single cut, repeated, at the exact same time, in the biting cold when his body begged him to quit. And even on the days when his entire life felt like it was falling apart around him, Kata gave shape to the effort. Keiko took the daily debate out of his hands. Shugyo taught him that discomfort is part of the path, not a sign of failure. And Ganbaru ensured the thread never snapped, even during his hardest weeks. Add all of that together, 1% at a time, and a year from now you won't even recognize the person who only knew how to dream. The question left for you is simple. What is your cut? What is that small, almost insignificant action you can repeat tomorrow morning without waiting to feel like doing it? If this video resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming breakdowns on samurai philosophy applied to real life. Leave a comment below. What is going to be your cut, the minimum action you will start repeating tomorrow? And if you want to continue building discipline through Japanese philosophy, check out the video appearing on the screen right now. Binge through this content and make sure to apply the lessons from this channel to your daily life. I'm confident you'll see meaningful shifts in your life, just as hundreds of people on this channel already have. Thank you so much for your focus and attention, and remember, stay present, walk with honor, follow the path. Until the next video.